fire person this way.
Gilligan's
And
Island
if the
crew.
wind
Sure,
direction
we
is
all
correct,
saw
it could
it.
actually be
Nice.
going back up the hill this way. And it would sort of
You were Mary Ann.
Driving professor, obviously.
Well, it's hard to fight.
Yeah, it's a three-dimensional fire nightmare, basically.
Yeah, it's, so no major train wrecks right now?
No, we had one up in Iowa, it's pretty bad. We lost 7 cars.
What was that at?
New Hampton,
Oh, yeah,
just outside of there.
yeah.
We lost 85 tons of anhydrous ammonia in about 10 seconds.
Which is expensive now. One of the farmers was telling me that anhydrous has gone from, and I don't know what time it is, but hey, John, not that long ago, from 100 a ton up to 1,200 a ton.
That's probably thanks to us for derailing that train.
I don't know, but that's quite a jump in it. You think what that's gonna do when you put that on the land again, and it's gonna be passed on to crops, and the weeds are gonna cost more.
It's always fun.
Everybody ready?
Yep.
Let's call the meeting to order. Start out with the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One roll call. Trustee Howdy Shell.
Present.
Trustee Clark.
Here.
Trustee Reiner.
Here.
Trustee Shover.
Here.
I'm here. Clerk Ford. Trustee Goodman.
Here.
Trustee Khan. Trustee Long. And Engineer Timmers is here, Naomi's spot. On to item 2, public comments. If anybody has any public comments, please rise, state your name, address, and try to keep it about 2 minutes or less.
Good evening. Jill
Good evening.
Jill and Bruce Blazek, West 223 South 7412, Douglas Court, Big Bend. We'd like to go on record in support of the Planning Commission recommendation to the Village Board to mill off the asphalt, do testing to evaluate the road base contents and condition, repair the road base if and as needed, and then asphalt according to the terms of the existing developer agreement that's specific to Douglas Court, with minimal, if any, impact to the existing private hard surfaces. Our property was purchased based on the understanding that the terms of the existing developer's agreement would be upheld, and we feel the road should be paid per those terms. We don't believe that a scheduling conflict should waive the inspection, that the inspection should have been done as scheduled when the road was installed, and any repairs or approvals done at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you guys write your name and address on that sheet, please, just so that it's correct?
I didn't see it up there, I would have asked him, sorry.
I just put that.
Wojciechowski, residing in Douglas Court, W223, that's 7413. I'm in favor of upholding the Planning Commission recommendation to resurface the road, take it down, and it to be normal at the height what was agreed upon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, can you do the same thing with that sheet, please?
Good evening. Brian Germany, West 223, South 7462, Douglas Court. I also am in agreement with my neighbors with the Planning Commission's recommendations to mill off the asphalt, test the base, and then repave as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments? If there are no other public comments, we'll move along. Item 3 reports, fire department report. Chief King, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, it's a little on the late side here, but you can raise it. Total calls for the month here. Raise it.
know, you're used to bending down to milk cows, so.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. For the month, we had 15 calls. We completed our fire prevention with the start of the month here. We spoke to several children and parents about fire prevention. Reminder that this Sunday morning we'll be turning our clocks back. This is a good time to check your batteries and your smoke alarms, smoke detectors, CO detectors. And now with the colder weather coming, please check your furnaces to make sure that they're not clogged, so when you turn them on, they don't start a fire. We also have seen a decrease in the COVID positive cases in the area. Our current PPE supply is still in good shape yet. We participated in trick or treat on Sunday there. We talked to several residents and handled candy out to all the children. And then for those who want to burn leaves at this time of year, we remind you that the pile should be no bigger than 4 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot high, and wind speeds less than 9 miles an hour. Also, we have our membership. Our membership is exploring a community project for the village of Big Bend for 2022. It's currently in the development stages at this time. So, any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. 3B library report. Good evening, Carol.
Well, we're starting our fall programming now, and we've been really busy, which is a good thing. In the afternoon, 3 hours ago, there were 17 people in here watching a movie. We do have story hours. This month we had 3, which included a Halloween party. And book clubs, movies, we had a coloring class, a paint class, and an author came to visit us, a local author. Also, I've become part of a group called Celebrate Reading in the Big Bend Elementary School. The librarian there and the teachers have a small group, and they're doing some brainstorming about how to encourage kids to read hard material versus just reading on your device. It's interesting, really interesting seeing literacy from their perspective, because they're here just to look at children, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a different viewpoint of my job. Also, I've been pounding on a lot of virtual classes. It's part of what I have to do to keep up my license. And I also am working on a long-term strategic plan. I'll probably send it to you as an attachment when we're done. It's just for the library board to plan our goals for the next 3 years. And I also give you a graph on here because I think the picture says 1,000 words to tell you the health of the library system in general and ours compared to the whole. The top graph is our library, and I'm sorry it's really small, but if you can see the line that looks kind of green and yellow, that's this year. And below is the entire library system. Basically what it shows me is that we are back to normal as far as our ups and downs, but we're probably 10 to 15% less than we had been pre-COVID. The entire library system, I think they said they're down 17%. So all of us are starting to think that that may be the new normal. But what I did a little bit of research just to see what's going on electronically, because I know that changed last year. All of us are on our devices like we never were before. And there's 18% more use of Overdrive, all the kind of electronic materials that you can use with a library card. I'm talking about free reading, streaming, magazines, ebooks and that. So I'm hoping there's a group in Waukesha County that's meeting with their accountants to decide how they're gonna change the formula for our funding next year. And I really think that there's some value in adding that, because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that I don't see. All I do is give people library cards and encourage them to use what's out there. But it is unseen, it is paid for. We do pay a fair chunk for all these databases. So it was nice to see those numbers go up. Oh, do anybody have any questions?
Next, Carol. Item C, Police Department monthly report. Chief?
Reports are in front of you. Good evening, everybody. One assault, one fraud ID, one criminal damage, one drunk driver, which is a drunk driver that ran on the back of my squad car, and my officer's squad car when she was driving it. 2 others, 2 adult arrests, 88 traffic stops, 70 traffic citations, 1 non-traffic citations, calls for service and assignments 187, business hours checks 11, traffic accidents 4, and we responded with the fire department to 5 of their calls. The next pages there are narratives. Take a look at it. I'll slow down so you can read through while I'm talking. 6 other agencies, the numbers are wrong there. I'll give that a correct number for that, that's the wrong number on there. For court, we've had initial appearances 76. Village of Waukesha initial appearances 7. State debt collection is the next 2 numbers down for Big Bend and Waukesha, and total numbers are at the end there. You can read them for yourself if you have any questions on them. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints?
And then, Chief, I wanted to see the number of inspections this month,
Pardon me?
the number of inspections.
Vehicle inspections?
Yes.
We are at 12 vehicle inspections right now since we started. 11 completed, 1 that's scheduled. There's stuff on the agenda for talking about that as we go along here. And we'll discuss more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Item D, President's report. No report tonight. Item E, Public Works Department monthly report is in your packet. Eric could not be here tonight. Read it at your leisure, I guess. Item F, Professional Services report.
No, we don't.
Very good. Along to item 4, A, discussion and approval of minutes from the Thursday, October 7th meeting.
Motion to discuss the meeting.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
We need to add that trustee Runner was present.
I didn't see myself as missing, so.
Sorry, Phil.
Alright, yeah, it's-
On 3C, what does PD stand for?
Probably PB.
yeah, it's supposed to be, I
PD.
think, part.
That's from 15 years of being a PB.
C. The first sentence needs to be revised. Reported unupdate. Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, approval of bills. A, discussion, consideration, and approval of October 20th, 2021 bills in the amount of $107,620.05.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5B, discussion, consideration, and approval of November 4th, 2021 bills in the amount of $71,586.66.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6A, discussion, consideration, and possible action on the emergency management plan for the village of Big Bend. Tony.
Had a meeting, not on October 19th, but October 21st with the emergency management director and her staff. They're in process of updating some of their emergency mitigation plans and some of their ESFs that correspond with that. The suggestion is to await them to process it so we can cut and paste and get ours up to date immediately after they get done. We're still in compliance. They're a thumbs up on everything we've done thus far.
They have an estimate on time on that? 3 to 6 months probably?
They feel fairly positive first quarter next year, so early first quarter.
The backup generators ordered and any time frame on that?
I believe it was like 32 months.
32-week lead time on it.
Okay, so it's gonna be a while.
We're 4 weeks into that. 32 weeks.
So we got got ways to go on.
Just count it down.
7 months.
Any other questions? Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
6B, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the Cajun Fill site in general. As you all know, we used the surety bond to close the site up. I think the total was around $36,000. There's still some engineering fees he needs to pay. The DNR was up there last week, Tuesday. They were not 100% thrilled with the growth, but they were 100% thrilled with the coverage. They want to go back in 2 weeks and inspect again before they give it the final closing. You know, they said it would pass at 70%, but they want to see it get more. That's their decision, I guess.
Do we expect that much improvement in 2 weeks?
We had a 1 week of decent weather and, you know, the grass was growing. I don't think you'll see much. Now, maybe this weekend you get a little bit too. It's their call. Questions? Move along. Item 7A, consider an approval of the following operators license applications. Hannah Bonder. Chief?
I didn't see no issues with her being approved.
Make a motion to approve and bond.
Any further discussion?
It doesn't say for whom.
Not on the agenda, but on the.
Thomas Ash.
Compass.
Buckles, okay.
County application,
I'm sorry?
county application.
Oh, I didn't see that, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item-
Sir, can I interrupt just real quick for
Yes,
1
please.
second? I would ask that all those applications for that dark owner license be given to me immediately because there's a driver's license picture and full information of that individual on the back driver's license, so I can destroy it.
I was gonna surprise, we don't
Yeah.
normally have them in packages.
No.
Yeah, I think I was an oversight, but there's no, taken care of.
Pass yours down to the chief too.
Then you can destroy them.
Because of the driver's, what?
She's asking me to take
He'll bring this one.
Because I don't think we should be putting that out.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Item 7B, discussion, consideration, and possible action on salvage vehicle inspection fees. Chief?
So as you all know, we're back up and running with the salvage vehicle inspections. As I mentioned during my report, we're at just 12 now. We're still not on the site for the state DOT. We're working on that. So what we have an opportunity for is at least one so far dealership who has made an inquiry for us to, instead of them coming to us for an inspection or inspections, if they have 5 or more cars ready for inspection at their site, if we would be willing to travel to their site to do the inspections. The one that we're dealing with right now, which I know there possibly will be others, because when Jeff was here, he did them off-site because he could, because he wasn't using our car and he was going past the places. But obviously, if we're doing it, our officer will be using our time, our gas, our squad. The location of the one right now is Racine. I think it is a great potential to provide this service to more people, which is limited throughout the state. Obviously, when it was talked about between myself and Jamie Aid and this car dealer, my first thing to him was, we're gonna have to talk to you guys about it. There'd be an additional administrative fee. My thinking, and after talking with finance this evening, I would like to have it so we can respond up to 6 a month, or an hour drive away.
Minimum of 5 cars
And a minimum of 5 cars
for an additional $50.
for an additional $50.
Not per vehicle, just one additional administrative fee.
Like a trip charge, so to speak.
Trip
Church charge of $50, which if we will.
If you're getting that volume of cars, it makes it worth your time, for sure.
Right. It's not even, in my opinion, it wasn't even a question. I think we stay at 5, and don't go any lower than that, or I think you do about that following. And that buffer of fees. Question?
I don't know about licensing for being able to do those inspections. Does it go by county? Do you have to have anything?
We can do anybody in the state if we wanted to. If somebody from Eagle River wanted to drive down to Big Bend because nobody else is available, they could come to Big Bend and Jamie could do the inspection for
It
them.
wouldn't matter if you would go there as opposed to them coming here for any of the licensing?
No.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the proposal.
I'll second.
Stated.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7C, review, discussion, and possible action to amend the developer's agreement as to the paving specifications and schedule for paving at the Douglas Court development located at Douglas Court. The village staff initiated this request owing to the condition of required public improvements completed to date by the developer. The property is zoned R2 residential district. Planning Commission recommendation to the village board was to mill off all of the asphalt, to do testing, to evaluate the road base, contents, and condition, repair road base if and as needed, then asphalt according to the terms of the existing development agreement. In your packet, you've got a rather thick email chain here with some information on it. I think I'm going to turn this over to Mike Timmers right now because he's the road expert from our engineering company. And he's familiar with what they're proposing.
Yeah, so as you can see in the packet, the email, they are proposing an additional asphalt surface application of 1.25 inches of asphalt overlay on top of the existing asphalt on Douglas Court, on the entire section of Douglas Court. They would mill inch and a quarter butt joint at John Drive and at each of the concrete driveways to match into the driveways and match into John Drive. Place a tack coat prior to surface coating and place inch and a quarter asphalt overlay on the entire surface. At that time, they would have to also place shoulder material afterwards. So I've reviewed the documents, and after reviewing the documents and discussing with individuals that were on site during the proof roll on the base to determine that the base was good prior to paving, which was Eric from DPW was on site. Having seen the documents pertaining to the thickness of gravel that was existing, I don't know what was existing, but what I am told from the developer's engineer and from DPW, Eric is comfortable with the thickness of gravel that was placed on the roadway prior to. Therefore, I guess from an engineering standpoint, I'm comfortable with 4.75 total inches of asphalt on this particular roadway section. The mix that they're proposing is a 5LT mix that is DOT specified. That's typical to follow DOT specifications when designing and building roadways. This would meet the minimum thickness required for an asphalt mix of this type. What else? However, I guess I would say that the issue would be the 4 concrete driveways that we had discussed last meeting. If you match those existing driveways, you would only still have 4 inches at the driveways. Certainly I have no comment whether or not that's a good idea. 2 feet of driveway removal is a consideration. Remove 2 feet of driveway. You can still do exactly what they're proposing. You could still mill in front of those driveways to ensure that you have a minimum thickness of 4 inches. You would match back into the concrete driveway with the asphalt. So in essence, at each driveway, I would consider an idea would be to mill about 3/4 of an inch down. You'd add 1 1/4 inches to the mix, or to that area, which would give you a thickness of 4 inches plus at the driveways, and blend it into the rest of the roadway. And the rest of the roadway would be at 4.75. For the driveways, would be about 4. From an engineering standpoint, I would be comfortable with that. The structure of the roadway, the structure of the driveways, the slope entering and exiting the driveways would be a good slope. The cold joint, which every driveway has, where the road meets the driveway, would be in essence moved 2 feet away from the roadway edge, somewhat protecting that edge of roadway. So that's not a negative, that's a positive from an engineering standpoint. Again, taking the driveways 2 feet, that's not my decision, but the only other thing, like I said before, that afterwards they would have to place a shoulder material. Obviously, if you're putting 1 1/4 inches on top of what's existing, we'd be raising the shoulder 1 1/4 inches. So that would have to be done as well. I did speak to Payne and Dolan, Madeline from Payne and Dolan. I did speak to Mr. Khan about these thoughts that I had, that if this was chosen, that I would suggest we would do. So everybody's aware of that as well. I guess if you have any questions, I would take those. That's all I have.
Can we ask questions? Can we ask questions?
Sure.
We don't have the benefit of looking at the report or understanding that engineering, but, question would be, I understood based on the last meeting that there were going to be multiple options presented from Payne and Dolan. Were there other options presented?
I didn't see another option. presented.
Nothing came across my email. Did you get anything? Did you get any other options from Payne and Dolan?
No, I let the professionals, I hired Payne and Dolan Company, was a professional, and they conversed with Mike, and I'm just going on what they're telling me.
Now, this is a different grade of asphalt, if you will, than what's currently on the road, if I understand.
Yeah,
It's a little finer.
The difference is the aggregate size, so it's a 9.5 millimeter versus the surface that is on there is a 12 millimeter. Millimeter, did I say meter? 9.5 millimeter versus a 12 millimeter. It is used, though not as often. It's typically used more for a driveway mix. Looks nicer.
Smoother, prettier.
Smoother, yeah. It's an approved mix, so I'm not gonna go any further than that.
Right.
It's a DOT approved mix, so.
So we're taking and milling in front of the current driveway then?
No, they're going into the driveway by 2 feet.
A little bit of both, right?
The proposal was not to do anything with the driveways and match the driveways, and that would be up to you guys to do it that way. That would, however, the end result would still be 3.5 inches of asphalt at the driveways.
I think that was the big concern of the property owners, is whether we were cutting into it or not, which I totally understand. What are you recommending from planning?
We didn't talk about it because it was already up to the board, right? So we didn't.
We didn't bring it up at the last planning.
Oh, okay. I thought from what I heard, there was a recommendation.
That was from last
There was, that was.
month and a half ago.
And what was that
September.
recommendation then?
So, if needed, remove and repair, reinstall the road,
Full depth.
Again, it was, at that point, the thought was, we have things in place, building code in place that says, oh, you're supposed to do it to this engineering standard, right? So they were saying hold to that standard, because there was more than that. There was, the depth was different, as well as both lays are at the same time. Well, we understand that happens in other areas just fine. In our code, it states that it needs to be separated, those 2 lays, right? The first and then the second, 12 months later. In this case, the top coat was done right away, which again, in plenty of other situations that happens and it's just fine, but in our books, technically it's supposed to be separate. So there was a couple concerns there, but going back to the recommendation, so if they were to throw down 1.25 inches on top of the existing and not touch the driveway, couldn't they back further into the road, start to feather that and still get the 4 inch, you know what I mean, to kind of make sure?
Not to match the
Not
driveway
100%.
unless you either raise the driveway
Yeah, that
or
inch
remove
or
the
whatever,
driveway.
I gotcha.
Or remove full depth, I think you were talking about last time.
Right, like
Full
remove-
depth off the roadway.
Yes.
Like that create a depression at the end of the driveway where water and stuff would accumulate?
Well, if the driveway was flat, or it couldn't be off, I guess I can't answer that offhand.
Without looking at each driveway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And if you're raising it 1.25 inches again, adding more stone along the edges, now the dirt coming up to it is dropped down again, even more. You've already got this much depth of stone along the edges. And it's already a ridiculous slope to try and cut. So now you're even adding to that. But who would be adding the dirt to that to even match up where that stone, extra stone is? It just keeps snowballing.
Just a comment. Has anybody been out to look at the road lately? Just as a matter of fact, the road seems to be deteriorating already. You can chuckle if you'd like, but you can see the beginning of little divots and potholes all over the road. So I'm questioning the underlayment. But, have engineers been out to look? I mean, we're talking about this or that, but, get out there with and measure what 2 feet what the impact of going 2 feet into the driveway is. I mean, first of all, what that impact is. Some people have curbs, curbs on their culvert areas. Is it gonna impact that? I mean, we're talking about it here in an isolated building. I think we need some boots on the ground, actually, for the people invested in this.
Yeah, certainly before we would do it, we would, for sure, whatever the choice is, whether it's full depth or 1.25 or 1.5 or 2 inches, we would want to assure that it's the right tie-in points and the right base or whatever the case is. Depends on the choice they make. I guess.
Part of my speaking again, but before this decision is made, it's probably prudent to go out there and look at this. It's hard to make a decision without actually seeing the lay of the land.
I've been in the program.
Yeah, I really too.
Okay.
What would the cost be? I know the big concern is the difference between concrete and blacktop in that additional 2 feet. What would the cost be to take and actually come back and replace that 2 feet with concrete?
It'll never match.
They won't match, yeah, we had, that had kind of been brought up that if you lay concrete in 2 different batches, it will stand out differently, right? The color and everything is it's gonna stand out.
Drive down Hillendale right now, you can see it in the new, where mosquito
It's
just
gonna
come
look
into all the
patchy.
driveways. It looks awful.
Okay,
So
just a thought.
yeah, the 2 feet, what I was thinking would be, one, to have a nice smooth transition into the driveway. And 2, to, like I said before, keep the joint away from the edge of the road. Not that big a deal. There's driveways that go right to the edge of the road all over. And if you wanted to see one, there is one at the corner of, the northeast corner of John and Douglas. The first driveway right there is a concrete driveway. It has an asphalt, same thing, about a 2 foot or 1.5 foot or so asphalt bump out, I call it.
On where?
Matches. Right on the northeast corner of John and Douglas.
Which house is it? Describe the house to me.
Brad and Jen's.
The one right across from this development.
Yeah,
called-
Brad and Jen's. So you got the road that goes up to the field and dead ends,
Yes,
and that's Mona,
yes.
that's right next to Brad and Jen's.
Oh, Canal.
Yes, correct.
So it just gives you an idea of what it looks like.
How
That's
it's
all.
almost-
That's all it's giving. As
Mhm.
far as the cost for concrete, it really depends on who you get, but it's at least double for concrete, so it's not extraordinary because it's not a large area per se. If you were gonna go and replace the concrete, which may not be a choice, but I would suggest you go to their current joint
Joint, sure.
so that it matches their joint.
Is there-
Better.
Is there, instead of taking the concrete, is there enough asphalt that pushes in towards the concrete portion of the driveway to be able to basically strip away that asphalt, mill it down to 4 inches, and then taper that back? Here's your road,
Sure.
here's your
That's what
driveway.
Michelle was saying.
That's what I was
And
trying,
it was-
but you say it more
It
eloquently.
would be 4 inches here and then basically taper it back up so it would
Yes.
match up with the rest of the road.
You could do that, I would like either remove or mill full depth. You'd have to go past each driveway far enough to have a transition back in.
And we can talk about that, so yeah, so you're not tapering towards the driveway, you're tapering towards the road.
Right.
So you have your 4 inches of depth at the concrete to match up to the buckets already there.
Yeah.
Can you do that without cutting the concrete?
Correct, that would be the idea, is to not
That
touch
would
the
be
driveway.
that'd be a nice option.
You would increase your slope, cross slope in the roadway slightly, because your center line of the roadway would have to be 1.25 higher. And you're still matching your driveway, but that would be regardless of whether you did what you're saying or
The other road.
Either way.
what they're saying. So,
Isn't there enough pitch on that road that where it goes, I don't know, I can't remember, I think to the north, so it really wouldn't puddle in front of the driveway. And maybe the ones on the south, it may go south or whatever, but it wouldn't necessarily puddle towards the drive, it would go down towards the ditch line.
certainly the first two would, I didn't put a level on my page
I mean, just for drainage and
Yeah, I should.
keep away from puddling and stuff, I know that was a concern.
I believe we can do that, yeah. Plus you could shape the asphalt to pitch away also. Not like concrete where you can't, you know, you can kind of blend it in a little bit better. That would be a consideration for sure that you would want to make sure that is going to work. Is getting water out. Good.
So we're outside of asphalt paving season, right?
Right.
I mean, we're pat, what is it, October 15th is the normal cutoff, and it doesn't start back up until what, April 15th?
Yeah-ish, depending on weather and plants. Really.
May 15th? You're looking at a long winter, aren't you?
Well, that's what it says in their contract.
Oh, okay. You know, we've got a little bit of time to try to get this refined. In my opinion, I would suggest that we take this, I believe that the concept is good, we just need to make it really good. Can we try to refine it back down to look at options of how we can try to not touch the concrete and be able to bring it back towards the roadway? And at the same time, I'd like to try to engage the residents. We're not talking about a large section of houses that are affected. It should be fairly easy to engage the residents and just see what their concerns are up front with this proposal so that everyone in the end is acknowledged and hopefully happy with the end results. At least that would be my thoughts on it.
Dare we schedule a field trip, if you will?
I think we could each go.
Give
I mean,
well,
if you
I
wanna-
think we get a handful of us at least, and maybe not a quorum.
I walk it every morning, what would you like to know?
It would be nice to have Mr. Timmers out there to
I
explain
can count the
anything you
potholes.
see.
Or tomorrow morning if you'd like.
Well, the potholes are gonna go away if they.
For you, I, and anybody else looking at asphalt, it's a road.
So is there potholes on the road
There
now?
are, yes, there are.
I've driven that.
There, I think
sometimes
your
and
team
don't see
came
that.
through and like spray painted them at one point. They were spray painted.
Yeah.
It's like pretty much worn off now, but there were areas missed. I know, because I was spray
We walked
painted
with
before.
Eric and decided on the ones.
Right.
So how can we have potholes?
Why the residential contractors leaving their equipment on the asphalt, that's how the potholes got there. And then they spent thousands of dollars not knowing the asphalt wasn't deep enough to have, however, they blended new asphalt in over those potholes. If you look up there, there's a lot of black spots up there, and that's where they filled the potholes from the contractors from doing work at the residents.
But if you look in the center of the road on a dark, as you're coming in the dark, there's divots all over, all through there just from cars. If you park your car on the side of the road, it'll leave divots on a hot day.
If that was true, every road that had construction would be
Mr. Timmons,
like that.
I am definitely not an expert about road construction. You are. What would be your opinion regarding the planning commission's recommendation? As far as going it all up,
What would be my
what would be your opinion as far as the planning commission's recommendation? To mill all the asphalt out, do the testing, test the road base, repair the road base if it's needed?
Well, if you're asking my opinion on what to do, I think removing the entire roadway is asking a lot. I think we have a roadway that is already built, is going to last. I mean, every roadway gets blemishes and gets beat up. I don't have a reason to believe that this asphalt, besides the blemishes, and if there's more out there, then certainly take a look. But especially if you're adding another inch and a quarter on top of it. Look, I'm an engineer. If you take out the whole roadway and test it and everything, we're gonna have a good road. But I think
Are
we'll
the
have a good-
blemishes there because we didn't hit the right depth to start of the asphalt?
I don't believe that has anything to do with it, if
Are
at
the
all.
blemishes there because the underlay wasn't where it needed to be?
You mean underlay as in like the gravel base?
Yes.
No, they have no idea what's under there.
I would say what I see is not because of gravel base.
It's not
If it
So
was
what,
gravel
so
base,
what
we-
what caused all of those divots in the road?
Some of the ones
Because
that,
there were a lot.
yeah, I agree. Some of them that I don't have all the answers.
I'm
To be
asking
clear.
because it doesn't seem normal. Like, we've had construction vehicles on the roads that abut that road, and there aren't the same, you don't have the same consequence.
Sure.
Well, and I think this circles back a little bit to the ordinance that we have in place, where we're asking people to do it in 2 steps, right? So we have construction traffic that's happening, and that's why there's always that delay before that second coat, that
Sure.
top coat goes down to help
Yeah.
cover up any of those things that may
Yeah.
happen from vehicles, whether it's construction or otherwise, sitting there for too long, or on a hot day. I really wonder if that's why we're seeing the characteristics of the road now, is because it was done in 1 day, and too much heavy traffic was put over it afterwards, freshly.
Perhaps too early, right,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, if we mill that off, Mike, and come back and replace the blacktop, won't that take care of a lot of the divots?
Middle out, what, the entire surface, or?
Yeah, are we doing that?
No.
No,
Oh, no?
that wasn't, that was one option, was to remove the whole road and put in a brand new road. That was one option.
That was the planning commission's recommendation.
That was one option. Another thought or option discussed was milling
No,
it
just to mill off the inch and a quarter,
inch and a half,
and that's the whole
inch
road,
and a
right?
quarter on the whole road, and then placing an additional 2/2 inch.
That's what I'm
Or-
asking, if we mill that amount off, and we come back over and we put that, new coat of blacktop on it, will that take care of the divots?
Yeah, anything's gonna take care of the divots. I don't have a, you know, if you put an overlay on top of it, it's gonna take care of those divots. I don't have a magic, you know, I don't know what's gonna, how it'll hold up over time. I don't have
Nobody does.
a, I don't have a concern of it holding up over time.
Okay.
In 5 years, you might have a divot or a pothole or whatever in any road, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
If I understand this quote right, you're just milling by the driveways.
And the butt joint at John Drive.
Right. No milling with the road surface itself.
No, this is over the top.
So this is just an overcoat over the top. So
This is
any imperfections that are in the road now, asphalt's a
Yeah.
putty, if you will, and it's gonna form to whatever imperfections are there now.
It's gonna cover, yeah.
Sure.
If there's a big pothole there, it's gonna be there, maybe not immediately the next day, but in 2 years, it'll resurface, correct?
It could if that moves. You know, asphalt compacts.
Right.
You know, when they place a layer of asphalt, it fills in deeper with that hole than it would without that hole. So you have more material there and it'll compact. If that area that you're talking about moves after that, well, yeah.
Right.
But that's part of that.
We're hoping that road's already settled though, having been there for 2
Yeah,
years,
that
right?
road's got 3 times the base of any other road in this town.
Not arguing that fact.
And it's all asphalt base, no gravel, not one bit.
So this would actually take the place of the second left. I mean, in theory, that's what we're doing, is putting the second left on now, if we follow this plan.
Yeah, third, but yeah.
The second left. The first one
Oh,
wasn't, the first one wasn't a 1 and 2, it was all done at once, so it's just, that's.
It was 2 layers, but it was.
It was all done at once, so it's all 1 layer in my opinion, so that just means that this is now going to be the second left of that road, which would be the final lift after construction. In theory.
Essentially, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first 2 were done in the same day.
Correct, it would be similar to having it sit for a year or 2 or whatever.
So they put this
Getting the houses in and then.
They put this finer grain asphalt on, roll it out, smooth it in with the driveways. We got us a good 30-year road.
Should.
I mean, at 4 3/4 inches now, or, I mean, it's gonna be one of the thicker roads in the village too.
I'm okay with the field trip, but Mike is able to meet us out here. Basically,
Sure.
I've been there, but like to have you there and point out different things. Maybe your homeowners could come and walk it, we could come up with some kind of decent agreement.
Or I agree.
Just real
Yes.
quick, what if it was just ground down where the homes are and the other was laid on top and blended, like where, closer to where our lots start? So it's not ground down from the top all the way down, just down in the cul-de-sac where actually our driveways and everything are. It's kind of a blended response to it.
Ground down how far?
How far, whatever is required. It'd be nice if it was completely done to spec down there at least, and then the rest of it is left.
Well, if they
With
put,
just a-
if they do what they're proposing with Payne and Dolan, it'll be 2 village spec roads and then some.
But it's gonna be raised, there's gonna be more
Right.
issues that's gonna be, as you're coming out of your drive, everything's gonna be,
That's a
It's
good
gonna be like a roller
proposal to
coaster.
consider.
Right.
I mean, there is a significant portion of road that has no driveway on it, till you get
Right.
up to the driveways.
if that's just coated on top, that's not an issue at all. And there aren't the big culverts in that area, so.
I guess those are things that Mike could point out to us, options that could be brought up at that time.
Sure.
What about somebody that's independent from this?
I believe that's what Mike is.
Yeah, I don't,
This
I'd say
mic.
he's-
Oh, that, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we've got 2 mics.
Yeah, I'm talking to the engineer.
I thought you were talking about
Yeah.
Mr. Kyle.
So I think maybe going out there with Mr. Timmers and a few of us taking a look at this and talking to some of the residents while we're out there some afternoon, we can hopefully determine either Plan A either works or something else works.
And again, as it was pointed out, Tony pointed out, it's not like they're doing the milling and the repair right now. We'd have some time
Right.
to make sure there's comfort level on evaluating the options.
Yeah, we don't want to give it too much time, so.
True, we gotta be on the schedule to get done right away in spring.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So I don't think Plan A was agreed to,
What?
cutting into the driveways at all.
No,
No, we didn't.
But that's what you're saying Plan A is, that's what was proposed.
no, Plan A
No, it's
doesn't cut
not,
into the
no, it's not,
driveways.
that, yeah.
Plan A is-
What is being proposed to the end of the driveway, he is recommending that if we're gonna do that for stability and multiple reasons like he described, it'd be better to go into the driveways. But that wasn't what was quoted.
This is to the end of the driveways?
Yes.
That's not how I read it.
Well, it depends on if you're reading.
On the email.
Yeah, that's different. In the email, he's reflecting his opinion, doing the
Right.
driveway.
Yeah.
That's an email,
Gotta
that's
just
his
read
feedback
quote.
to the quote from Payne and Dolan. If you focus on the Payne and Dolan piece, it's just to the end of the driveway, not touching them.
basically, I was just talking about the 3.5 inches versus the 4.
Yeah.
Tony was asking about the full depth, and what you had mentioned earlier, Michelle, is if you did the full depth in front of those driveways, you could consider the same thing.
Right.
So I guess I'd like to table this and have a road trip out there in the next 30 days.
Sounds good.
I'll second, or I guess his table, yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
Yeah, how will the residents know what day you choose to
I
come
will.
out there?
I will communicate with the Blazeks and the Kennedys for sure, because I have their email addresses already.
Okay,
And if you can get a hold of, if you add it to your sheet that's up there, you could just put your email address down. I'll communicate with you and you'll have probably at least a week's notice before we come out.
okay.
Are you publishing it as a meeting then?
No, if we get less than 4 of us out there as a board, it's not a quorum.
I think we may have to put it out there anyway.
I would just
We
I would
could,
post it
yeah.
as a meeting to be safe.
Possibility of
Doesn't hurt.
You guys have a water level committee too.
Right. Okay, we'll post a special meeting once we figure it out. Okay, we have a motion to table and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mike abstains. Motion carries.
Guys, before you leave, if you would add your email address to that sheet. Please. Then I can make sure you get the information.
Okay, item 7D, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding President Lysick appointing Kayla Rush to the Public Safety Committee. She comes recommended from Ellen Cole. She's interested in serving. We have an open spot.
Does that fill the committee then?
No. No, we're still short.
We're short
We have
one.
not been able to meet because we have not been able to make a quorum.
We've been short. The chief's got another one lined up, maybe.
So I
This
would
is what
say
we have now.
the fact that we can have one more member to hopefully get a quorum together, I would make the motion to appoint Kayla Rush.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7E, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding President Lysick appointing Tom Kennedy to the Planning Commission. Tom Kennedy is a representative of Douglas Court. He came with a recommendation from former trustee Kalanick. I've spoken with him, and he's willing to serve.
Making a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7F, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding museum policies. In your packets, you have some museum policies that were drawn up by Sadie and Bobby. And I believe they've run through your law offices once already, right? I don't know if you personally looked at them.
At least not recently, I know I reviewed the donation agreement, that was quite a while ago. I mean, I did glance at them. And
I think I'd like to have an opportunity to review these policies.
Right.
So I'd like to table it, bring it back at a later date.
Do they have any policies in place at this time?
Nothing in writing.
Nothing in writing, okay.
So this is a huge step forward, a welcome step forward. I'll second your motion, Jeff, to table this until hopefully next meeting, giving everybody a chance to review it, including the attorney. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7G, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding Hawes contract. I don't know that we have a whole lot of choices on this, but I had to put it on the agenda so you knew I was signing it.
What is the fee change? Does the fee change at all from previous or not? Not sure.
I don't think so.
1155 still, yeah.
Do you know how many times we've used the service in the last number of years?
Not off the top of my head. Chief, would you know, or?
Not off the top of my head.
That would be nice.
We've been pretty lucky with dogs that we find that are strays that have tags on them. We can usually, my squad, go through the vets and through all the laws and figure out where they belong. So I guess we use them when we use their name to figure out where the owners are and a phone number for them. We don't think very many animals up there at all.
It's also where our license is coming from.
Right.
Sold one today.
It's a three-year contract.
That's the per year price, right?
Correct.
Yep, annual fee.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion?
Take care of Canadians.
You work for free in Northern.
I'll do it free.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One moment, please. Thank you. Item 7H, discussion and consideration of the 2022 budget. You have a copy from Finance and Personnel in your packet of the proposed 2022 budget. There will be no action on it tonight. This is just for your consideration and review. We have a public hearing set, or will be set, for December 2nd. Notice goes out on the 10th, I believe.
Next week, yeah.
If you're just looking at bottom lines, taxes were not raised, and there's a $20,000 surplus.
This says though that there's a, no, never mind. What is cable franchise fees?
I would like to know the same thing.
Yeah, it's funny, I had a question mark next to that too.
I mean, we paid it this year, we paid it last year.
We get money.
We get,
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
revenue.
they give us
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Oh, revenue.
You pay that extra $3 or whatever it is on your cable bill, and that goes to your local municipalities for, it used to be for your cable access channel or broadcast rights
What's the story on the fireworks permits?
or,
So like,
they had to change their fiscal year to be ending on December 31st, so we won't get our check until January.
gotcha.
Yeah, Vince had called me about that
What was explained?
last spring.
Okay. Yeah, so I was like, wait a minute, this time of year, we should have seen that roll in by now.
Right,
but-
yeah, and he was all apologetic.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hey, gotta do what you gotta do.
So will we get it before the end of the year?
No, he said January.
Oh, it'll be in January. He can't send it out before the end of the year. Or
Well, he's-
they can't.
Right. Clarification. What's the story on the building permits? Significantly higher than previous year, and yet we're still budgeting a fraction of the amount we got in 2021? Just curious. Seems like we're done. 3. Just seems like there's a story to tell there when you pull in over $27,000 in 2021, but yet we're only gonna budget 12 for next year? And the budget was only 6 for 21.
I think that, we think that number isn't right for 2021.
There's money in there that's not supposed to be in there, from a different line. But then it has to do with, based on the amount of building permits we intend to distribute, based on, like, you ripple book, but that's about it.
Is that the same story for the other two on the bottom, planning applications and service reimbursements?
Correct.
Correct.
Because all those numbers to me stand out significantly.
Correct. It has to do with based on what we're anticipating because of, like, we don't have,
We don't have a whole lot more land coming in,
right.
so until we get that TID rolling.
I notice on here that it shows no fire inspection fees were brought in 2020 and none so far in 2021. We're not charging for fire inspection.
We don't,
We never
you don't charge for first inspection, you only charge for,
Re-inspections.
when you have to re-inspect.
The ones failed.
I thought that I remembered Inspector Brump saying that he had to go back out for a second turn now.
Well, then it's discretionary to charge for the second re-inspect too.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was brought up previously too, I think. Sounds familiar because we required. There's definitely an opportunity there for some level of revenue stream, even if it's small.
Did we receive the Jumbotron?
Oh, had to bring that up.
Moving on.
Thanks, Tony.
Are withdraw the question.
How'd that boss feel?
I wasn't trying to poke the bear.
It's fine.
I swear to God.
It's finally done.
What do you mean it's done?
It's done.
Okay, well, I don't know the answer to this.
Finished being built, it just needs to be picked up
Oh,
and paid for.
yeah, that I know.
You don't wanna talk about it.
No, I don't.
What about the $50,000+ drop in celebrations food tax revenue?
Everything on there should be, there has never been a budget for celebrations. So celebrations washes. Everything in
Because it's not
people's
letting
account.
me do it anymore.
Understood, but if you throw it in front of people, there's gonna be questions.
All ones at the wash.
You throw a number of 136K and you say, oh, next year we're gonna budget 82, wait.
Well,
there's a big
that
jump there.
82 is more average than the 120 that was exceptional for 2020.
Notice on here, fire department sale of equipment, it shows 0 for 20 and 0 for 21. Didn't I remember a conversation about a pump being sold, like a large ended diesel pump being sold at one point in
I
time?
think they came up with a couple different stories. One being that it was given away, one that it was given away and that it was a donation. We're not exactly sure what happened.
Fair enough. I just wanted to make sure it just read 0.
Right.
I think there's still that big question mark, Tony.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's Tuesday.
Wow.
Is that ours?
It's gotta be Vernon.
No, that's ours, they're going out to an accident.
Seemed awfully close to my van.
It's,
I felt the movement in my heart.
Close
They're
is
on a
okay.
mission.
He had his foot into it, or she, or whoever.
I'll probably have some more questions, but I'll just kick them out via like email or something, try to get some answers before the public hearing. Again, this is
I think
just,
some of the biggest things are the wages.
There were some adjustments in there, but we did everything without borrowing any money or raising taxes. And we continue to pay down debt.
What is a cemetery workhorse?
Software for accounting, cemetery,
Okay.
with how busy it's getting there, it wants to plug in for the workhorse software for the cemetery module.
Which should be pretty beneficial, because I think a lot of your books are paper, yeah, I think, all paper.
so there's no action on this, it was just,
Correct, no
It's just
action.
put in front of you so that you're not blindsided at the public hearing, seeing the budget for the first time. And for you guys to give you the opportunity to ask us questions now, or,
it's a lot to digest and
Right.
right now, but that's what I mean, I'm gonna have to, I'll have some follow-up questions for sure.
our bond payment goes up $22,000.
22.
And it goes up more than that
Goes up every year
the next
for the
couple
next
years.
2 or 3, and it plateaus, then it starts dropping.
That's closer.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
much closer.
Then it starts dropping in 2029 or 2028. So we're gonna have to continue to tighten the belt for the next
It's responding now.
6 years, 5 years.
5 to 8 minute difference. And that's-
Well, these are our people coming in for the call.
Right, right.
One rig went out already.
One of ours?
Where'd that go?
One
Where'd the
from
fire
our-
truck come from just now?
Where'd the fire truck go? Go wait.
That came from somewhere else.
Was that from?
Station
No, just a
2.
second.
So it's going the other way.
It went the wrong direction.
Well,
Going
maybe
east
there's
and
2
then north.
calls.
Where's the accident?
East and north. I-43 in big, in 164.
Oh, so that
But
first
the other-
truck that went by went down to the fire department.
That
makes
was at
sense.
the truck of one of the guys that are on the rig probably.
Oh, okay.
They would drive down to Station 2 to get the truck,
Okay.
and then that was the truck coming back, the ambulance already went out.
I thought that was your officers,
I thought so too.
the way they had their foot.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns about the budget? If you do, feel free to call Michelle. I'm sorry.
Should I write that
I'm
too?
kidding, I'm kidding. I'm
Call
kidding.
Michelle with questions.
If nobody has any other comments or questions about it at this time, I will move the agenda. Item 8, go into closed session. I'm going to combine A and B. Go into closed session as per Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session specifically to discuss combined/shared services. And B, to go into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1BE, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governing body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically working agreement for the police chief.
I'll make the motion to go into closed session.
Second.
A roll call vote. Trustee Howdy-Shell.
Aye.
Trustee Clark.
Aye.
Trustee Brenner.
Aye.
Trustee Long.
Aye.
Trustee Con.
Aye.
Trustee Goodman.
Aye.
Aye as well. I have to kill the recording.
Want to turn that off?
Let me help.
That can stay on, I just gotta kill it in
Probably.
here.
Let me help us, sir.
Probably, what you get.
Yeah, for a minute, I guess. We'll get you done there first.
Just text me. Oh.